Apocalyptic prophecies have been a central part of many religious and cultural traditions, often described with symbols and terrifying events that precede the end of times. In Christianity, especially in the Book of Revelation, there are a series of signs interpreted as indicative of the end times. Here are 5 scary signs that many believe are already happening, pointing to the imminence of the apocalypse. Number 1. The rise in natural disasters. The increase in natural disasters is one of the most frequently cited and debated apocalyptic signs concerning biblical prophecies about the end times. The Book of Revelation contains several passages describing cataclysms that would precede the final judgment, such as earthquakes, floods, and other devastating natural events. Observing the current patterns of natural disasters, many see a troubling correlation suggesting the imminence of these prophetic times. Earthquakes, for example, are repeatedly mentioned in the scriptures as signs of the end times. In Revelation 6:12, a great earthquake is described accompanying the opening of the 6th seal. And when he had opened the 6th seal, there was a great earthquake, and the sun became black as sackcloth of hair, and the moon became as blood. In recent years, there has been an increase in the frequency and intensity of earthquakes worldwide. Devastating earthquakes in places like Haiti, Japan, Chile, and Nepal have caused mass destruction and significant loss of life. Besides the immediate damage, these earthquakes often result in tsunamis, such as the 2011 earthquake and subsequent tsunami in Japan, which caused a nuclear catastrophe in Fukushima. Many see these events as a fulfillment of apocalyptic predictions, suggesting that we are witnessing clear signs that the end is near. Floods and storms are also frequently mentioned in apocalyptic prophecies. In Luke 21:25, Jesus speaks of signs in the sun, moon, and stars, and of distress of nations with perplexity, the sea and the waves roaring. This verse has been interpreted as a reference to extreme weather events, including devastating floods. In recent years, we have seen a series of catastrophic floods in various parts of the world. Storms like Hurricane Katrina in 2005, which devastated New Orleans, and Hurricane Maria in 2017, which caused massive damage in Puerto Rico, are examples of extreme weather events that have become increasingly common. Additionally, countries like India, Bangladesh, and China have faced devastating floods due to torrential rains and intensified monsoons. These storms not only cause immediate destruction, but also result in prolonged humanitarian crises, displacing millions of people and causing resource shortages. Wildfires are another natural phenomenon that has increased in frequency and intensity, causing devastation over vast areas. Australia, for instance, suffered unprecedented wildfires in the summer of 2019 to 2020, burning millions of hectares, killing billions of animals, and destroying thousands of homes. California and other parts of the United States have also experienced increasingly severe wildfire seasons, exacerbated by prolonged droughts and record temperatures. These fires are often seen as a reflection of climate change, creating more favorable conditions for the rapid and uncontrollable spread of fire. In addition to direct impacts, these natural disasters have significant ripple effects, such as economic crises, population displacement, and social instability. The increase in natural disasters and their growing intensity have also led many to believe that these events are clear indicators of the fulfillment of biblical prophecies about the apocalypse. The convergence of devastating earthquakes, floods, storms, and wildfires seems to echo the signs described in the scriptures, causing many to wonder if we are indeed living in the last days. While scientists point to climate change as an explanation for the increase in natural disasters, many believers see these events as a fulfillment of biblical prophecies. The perception that the world is entering a period of unprecedented natural cataclysms is shared by both those observing scientific trends and those reading sacred texts. Regardless of perspective, the rise in natural disasters is an alarming sign that provokes reflection on the state of the world and the future of humanity. The impact of these events on people's daily lives is profound. Entire communities are destroyed, lives are lost, and human suffering becomes palpable. For many, the increasing frequency and intensity of these natural disasters are a call to action, whether through efforts to mitigate climate change or through spiritual preparation for the end times. The idea that we are witnessing apocalyptic signs in our modern days adds a layer of urgency to the need to respond to these global challenges. The rise in natural disasters is one of the most discussed and observed apocalyptic signs today. Earthquakes, floods, storms, and wildfires are occurring with alarming frequency and intensity, leading many to believe that we are living in the times prophesied in the book of Revelation. Whether through the lens of climate change or biblical prophecies, these events are shaping our understanding of the world and challenging us to reflect on the future of humanity. Number 2, global pandemics. The global COVID-19 pandemic has highlighted the fragility of worldwide public health and underscored the devastating impact infectious diseases can have on our societies. This event, along with other recent pandemics, is often seen as a fulfillment of apocalyptic prophecies that mention pestilences and overwhelming diseases as signs of the end times. The Bible makes several references to plagues and pestilences tormenting humanity, and many believe we are witnessing these prophecies unfold before our eyes. The Gospel of Luke 21:11 mentions, "There will be great earthquakes, famines, and pestilences in various places, and fearful events and great signs from heaven." The reference to pestilences is often interpreted as a nod to infectious diseases causing significant mortality and suffering. The COVID-19 pandemic, which began in late 2019 and quickly spread worldwide, has resulted in millions of deaths and an unprecedented global health crisis. This singular event has brought to mind other great pandemics in history, such as the Black Death in the 14th century and the Spanish flu in 1918, but with the difference of occurring in an interconnected world, amplifying its global impact. Besides COVID-19, other emerging and re-emerging infectious diseases have caused worldwide concern. The Ebola outbreak in West Africa between 2014 and 2016, resulting in thousands of deaths, highlighted the vulnerability of affected regions and the speed at which a deadly disease can spread. Zika, which spread throughout the Americas, brought to light the dangers of new mosquito-borne viral diseases, especially for pregnant women and their babies. Avian flu and swine flu have also emerged in recent decades as significant threats to global public health. These pandemics not only cause deaths and suffering, but also have profound economic and social effects. COVID-19, for example, led to global lockdowns, disrupting economies, causing mass unemployment, and exacerbating social inequalities. Health infrastructures, especially in less developed countries, were overwhelmed to the point of collapse. The uncertainty and fear generated by these pandemics create an environment of anxiety and hopelessness, echoing the apocalyptic descriptions of times of great tribulation. In addition to the pandemics themselves, there is also a worrying increase in antimicrobial resistance, the ability of bacteria, viruses, and other microorganisms to resist the drugs developed to combat them. This growing resistance threatens to return modern medicine to a pre-antibiotic era, where common infections could once again become deadly. The World Health Organization, WHO, has warned of the imminent danger of antimicrobial resistance, which could result in millions of additional deaths from infections that were previously treatable. The connection between infectious diseases and apocalyptic prophecies leads many to reflect on the nature and purpose of these events. For believers, the pandemic can be seen as a test of faith, a call for repentance, and preparation for the final times. For scientists and public health professionals, it is a reminder of the urgent need to improve health infrastructures, invest in research and development of vaccines and therapies, and strengthen international cooperation to deal with global health crises. Pandemics also have spiritual and philosophical implications. They force us to confront the fragility of human life and the interconnectedness of our global existence. In times of crisis, solidarity and compassion become essential, highlighting the importance of fundamental human values that transcend borders and cultures. The responses to these crises, whether through governmental, community, or individual actions, reflect our capacity for resilience and our willingness to face collective challenges. Global pandemics, exemplified by COVID-19 and other emerging diseases, are seen by many as a frightening sign of the apocalypse already unfolding. The biblical references to pestilences and diseases resonate strongly in light of current events, leading to deep introspection about the state of the world and the future of humanity. These public health crises highlight the need for continuous vigilance, global cooperation, and a renewed commitment to science and solidarity to meet the challenges ahead. Number 3. Conflicts and wars. Conflicts and wars around the world are often seen as some of the most disturbing apocalyptic signs, suggesting that we are living in the last days. The Bible, especially in the New Testament, repeatedly mentions that war and global violence are precursors to the end times. In Matthew 24:6-7, Jesus warns, "You will hear of wars and rumors of wars, but see to it that you are not alarmed. Such things must happen, but the end is still to come. Nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom." In recent years, the world has witnessed a series of persistent conflicts and escalating tensions between nations, which many see as the fulfillment of these prophecies. The civil war in Syria, for example, which began in 2011, has resulted in hundreds of thousands of deaths and the displacement of millions of people. This complex conflict involves multiple actors, including the Syrian government, rebel groups, and foreign powers such as Russia and the United States, exacerbating instability in the Middle East. The escalation of tensions between major powers is also a cause for concern. The rivalry between the United States and China has intensified on multiple fronts, including trade, technology, and military disputes. In the South China Sea, for instance, China has claimed disputed territories and militarized islands, leading to confrontations with neighboring countries and freedom of navigation patrols by the United States. This growing rivalry is seen by many as a potential trigger for a larger conflict. Additionally, Russia has played an assertive role in various regions, including the annexation of Crimea in 2014 and support for separatists in eastern Ukraine, resulting in international sanctions and ongoing tensions with the West. Russia's intervention in Syria to support the Bashar al-Assad regime also exemplifies its willingness to project power and challenge the established international order. These actions increase the risk of direct confrontations with other powers, including the United States and the European Union. Armed conflicts in Africa have also been devastating. Countries like South Sudan, the Central African Republic, and Nigeria face civil wars, insurgencies, and sectarian violence that result in incalculable human suffering. Terrorist groups like Boko Haram and Al-Shabaab continue to carry out brutal attacks, exacerbating humanitarian crises and regional instability. These wars often involve ethnic, religious, and resource disputes, making them difficult to resolve and prolonging the suffering of civilian populations. The Middle East, historically a region of intense conflicts, continues to be a focal point of violence and instability. Besides the civil war in Syria, the Israel-Palestine conflict remains an open wound, with sporadic episodes of violence and a distant peace solution. The rivalry between Saudi Arabia and Iran, each supporting different factions in regional conflicts such as in Yemen, also contributes to the instability. Yemen, in particular, faces one of the world's worst humanitarian crises, with millions on the brink of famine due to the ongoing war. These global conflicts have profound implications, not only for the directly affected regions, but also for international security and stability. The proliferation of weapons, including nuclear arms, increases the risk of catastrophic escalation. North Korea, with its nuclear program, poses a constant threat, conducting missile tests and defying international sanctions. Global powers are in a technological arms race, developing cyber and space capabilities that could transform the nature of future warfare. Global conflicts and wars are not just geopolitical issues. They have a devastating impact on the lives of ordinary people. Millions of refugees flee violence, facing dangerous journeys in search of safety. The destruction of basic infrastructure, such as hospitals, schools, and water supply systems, worsens humanitarian crises and hinders sustainable development. Children, in particular, suffer from disrupted education and the trauma of living in war zones. For many believers, global conflicts are seen as a clear sign of the apocalypse, a fulfillment of biblical prophecies that precede the end times. This perspective leads to introspection about human morality, the need for peace, and spiritual preparation for final events. The apocalyptic vision is not just a warning, but also a call to action to seek peace, justice, and reconciliation in a divided world. Conflicts and wars around the world are alarming signs that many interpret as evidence of the imminent apocalypse. The tensions between major powers, persistent regional conflicts, and resulting humanitarian crises are grim reminders of the violence and instability that continue to mark our era. These events challenge us to reflect on the state of our world and seek paths to global peace and security, while confronting the realities of apocalyptic prophecies. Number 4. Religious persecution. Religious persecution, especially against Christians, is a recurring theme in biblical prophecies about the end times, and is often seen as one of the clearest signs of the imminent apocalypse. The scriptures mention that followers of Christ will face intense persecution before Jesus' return. In Matthew 24:9, Jesus warns, "Then they will deliver you up to tribulation and kill you, and you will be hated by all nations for my name's sake." This prediction resonates strongly in light of the increasing religious persecutions occurring in various parts of the world today. In modern times, persecution against Christians is a brutal and prevalent reality. In many countries, practicing Christianity is severely punished, and Christians face discrimination, violence, and even death because of their faith. One of the most extreme examples is North Korea, where religion is strictly controlled by the state. Christians are often imprisoned, tortured, and even executed for practicing their faith. The mere possession of a Bible can lead to a death sentence or forced labor in prison camps. In Nigeria, Christians face continuous attacks from extremist groups, such as Boko Haram and militant Fulani herdsmen. These attacks result in mass murders, kidnappings, and the destruction of churches and entire communities. The violence is particularly severe in the northern part of the country, where the implementation of Sharia law has been a pretext for systematic persecution of Christians. Attacks on Christian villages are devastating, leaving deep scars on the surviving communities. The Middle East, a region historically significant for Christianity, is also a stage of intense persecution. In countries like Iraq and Syria, the rise of the Islamic State led to a brutal campaign of genocide against religious minorities, including Christians. Ancient Christian communities, which had existed since biblical times, were decimated, and thousands of people were forced to flee their homes. Many were killed or sold into slavery. Churches and other places of worship were destroyed in an attempt to erase any trace of Christian presence in the region. In Pakistan, accusations of blasphemy are often used to persecute Christians and other religious minorities. The blasphemy laws are draconian, and their application is often arbitrary, resulting in mob violence and extrajudicial killings. Pakistani Christians live in constant fear of being falsely accused of blasphemy, which can lead to life imprisonment or even the death penalty. Cases like that of Asia Bibi, a Christian woman who spent nearly a decade on death row before being acquitted, highlight the severity of this persecution. China has also intensified its crackdown on religious practices, including Christianity. Under the Chinese Communist Party, churches are monitored and often forced to register under state control, adopting practices that conform to communist ideology. Unregistered churches, known as house churches, are frequently targeted by police raids, with their leaders being arrested and their properties confiscated. The surveillance and pressure for conformity are so intense that many Christians are forced to practice their faith in secret. Besides the examples above, Christians face persecution in various other parts of the world, including India, where Hindu nationalism has led to violent attacks against churches and forced conversions. In several Muslim-majority countries, apostasy, the conversion from Islam to Christianity, is punishable by death or severe penalties. This global persecution is a terrible reality and a testament to the hardships many Christians face because of their faith. For many believers, these persecutions are not just a contemporary challenge, but a direct fulfillment of biblical prophecies. They see persecution as a sign that the end times are approaching, as described in the Scriptures. This suffering is viewed as a test of faith and resilience, a call for spiritual preparation, and a reminder of the promise of divine redemption and justice. Religious persecution also has profound implications for human rights and religious freedom. The freedom to practice and express one's faith is a fundamental right under threat in many parts of the world. The international community has a crucial role in promoting and protecting this right, denouncing abuses, offering support to persecuted communities, and pressing for political changes in countries where persecution is endemic. Religious persecution, especially against Christians, is an alarming sign of the apocalypse that many believe is happening now. The intensity and widespread nature of persecution in various parts of the world resonate with biblical prophecies, highlighting the urgent need for action and solidarity. This reality not only challenges the faith of believers, but also appeals to the global conscience to defend religious freedom and protect those who suffer for their beliefs. Number 5. Technological advances and global control. Technological advances and increasing global control are often seen as unsettling signs of the apocalypse, especially in light of biblical prophecies about the mark of the beast and the global domination of evil forces. In the book of Revelation, particularly in chapter 13, there is a detailed description of a global system that forces everyone to receive a mark on their right hand or forehead, without which no one can buy or sell. This vision has led many to look suspiciously at the development of advanced technologies and the growing capability for surveillance and control. The digital era has brought unprecedented advances in communication, information, and monitoring technologies. The internet and global connectivity have transformed how we live, work, and relate to each other. However, this technological revolution has also brought significant concerns about privacy, freedom, and control. The emergence of technologies such as artificial intelligence, AI, facial recognition, and mass surveillance has generated fears about the possibility of a totalitarian global control system. Facial recognition, for example, is a technology that allows individuals to be identified and tracked with alarming precision. In countries like China, this technology is widely used to monitor the population. AI-equipped surveillance cameras can track people's movements, identify individuals in crowds, and even predict behaviors. This constant monitoring capability is seen by many as a precursor to the global control system described in Revelation 13:16, 17. It also forced all people, great and small, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark on their right hands or on their foreheads so that they could not buy or sell unless they had the mark, which is the name of the beast or the number of its name. Besides facial recognition, other forms of digital surveillance and control are becoming increasingly common. The use of big data and sophisticated algorithms allows governments and corporations to collect and analyze vast amounts of personal data. This information can be used to predict behaviors, influence decisions, and even manipulate opinions. Concerns about digital privacy are deep, especially considering that many of these technologies operate invisibly without individuals' knowledge or consent. The issue of financial control is another crucial aspect. The digitization of money and the proliferation of digital payment systems have facilitated global transactions and commerce, but also raised questions about control and accessibility. The idea of a centrally controlled global digital currency is seen by some as a potential tool for totalitarian control. While cryptocurrencies offer a decentralized alternative, they also bring the risk of severe government regulation that could restrict their use. The COVID-19 pandemic has accelerated many of these technological trends. Quarantine and social distancing measures have led to increased use of contact tracing technologies, which, while useful for controlling the virus's spread, have also raised concerns about privacy and surveillance. Apps that track individuals' location and health status can easily be adapted for more intrusive uses. The concept of vaccine passports, which might be required to access certain services or travel, has also been viewed as a potential preview of more comprehensive control systems. The development of biometric implants is another area that generates concern. RFID, radio frequency identification, chips and other forms of implant technology have been promoted as convenient for various uses, from payments to medical identification. However, for many, the idea of having a chip implanted under the skin evokes disturbing images of the mark of the beast. The possibility of a future where people are forced or pressured to accept such implants to participate in society is alarming and seen as a literal fulfillment of apocalyptic prophecies. Beyond these immediate concerns, the advancement of artificial intelligence and automation also has profound implications. AI's ability to process large volumes of data, learn, and make complex decisions raises questions about the future of work, privacy, and even human autonomy. The development of autonomous robots and intelligent weapon systems adds a terrifying dimension to the potential misuse of technology. These technological trends also raise ethical and spiritual questions about the nature of humanity and technology's role in our lives. For many, the growing technological control is seen as a threat to human freedom and an affront to individual dignity. The idea of a global system that monitors, controls, and regulates all aspects of human life is a frightening vision that echoes apocalyptic warnings about evil domination. Technological advances and increasing global control are seen by many as alarming signs of an apocalypse that is already happening. Facial recognition, mass surveillance, digital financial control, and biometric implants are developments that evoke biblical prophecies about the mark of the beast and global domination. These trends challenge our perceptions of privacy, freedom, and autonomy, raising profound questions about humanity's future and the nature of technological control. For believers, these signs are a call to spiritual vigilance and preparation for the end times, while for others, they are an urgent call to action to protect our fundamental rights and freedoms.